It's time for the Saturday Sports Show on WMIX. On your radio at AM 940 and online at mywithersradio.com. Recognized by the Illinois Broadcasters Association as one of the premier radio feature programs in the state. You're about to roam the region with more guests and content courtesy of Crossroads Community Hospital. Live from the Powerhouse, the Saturday Sports Show starts now.
And good morning from the Powerhouse. Glad to have you with us on WMIX and mywithersradio.com for another Saturday Sports Show. Today we'll preview the South 7 Conference in terms of boys high school football. I'm Chris Hugo with Danny Zerwinski in studio, courtesy of Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
You bet it is. Can't wait to get the action started today. Of course, we will talk to 4 South 7 coaches today, as we'll talk with Jared Shaner about the Mountford and Rams. Rams, of course, had their meet the team last night, and their season will get underway Friday night against Rochester. We'll have that game for you right here on AM 940 with video online at mywithersradio.com. Of course, we'll also talk to Kerry Martin today about the Marion Wildcats' chances for making another postseason run. Dan Koester of the Carbondale Terriers will join us, of course, today in the first hour. We'll also talk to Ray Kauling of the Centralia Orphans. The Orphans, as you may remember, went 8-2 last year, going 8-1 the regular season, of course, bowing out in the first round of the 4A postseason. But nonetheless, in terms of not having had a winning season in quite some time, going on to share a South 7 Conference title and then an 8-1 record along the way, not too shabby. We'll talk with Coach Kauling about that. We'll also have Mike McManus. Leo, of course, is one of the voices of the Centralia Orphans on our sister station X95, as well as a sports editor at the Morning Sentinel. And then we'll introduce a voice you're going to hear quite a bit over the course of this high school football season. We picked up a special correspondent that'll be going to a different game, I believe, every week, or at least seeing some more teams than what you would normally hear about. And we'll talk to this correspondent. At least we're going to attempt to hook up with this correspondent every week for the next however many weeks the football season goes and however many games he goes to, I suppose, here on the Saturday Sports Show. And I'm looking forward to introducing this special guest a little bit later on.
It's an interesting get. Someone with a lot of football knowledge, a lot of schedule knowledge, going to go to a lot of football games this fall. And we're glad to have this person on each week to talk about the games he's been to and or the games he will be going to.
Well, and that's the cool thing about it is that with regard to this person, you know, you think about how renowned they are for breaking down game films. So for him to be able to see live action from week to week and be able to go from place to place and break that down on our airwaves, I think that is something special, and I know I am looking very forward to that each and every week here on the Saturday Sports Show. But it's going to be Jared Shaner, Kerry Martin, Dan Koester, Ray Kauling, Mike McManus, and our special guest here today on the Saturday Sports Show. We hope you'll enjoy it. We'll talk about some other things along the way. We'll also preview our high school sports schedule coming up over the next week. That's right, high school sports on the air. It gets started next week. It'll be Lady Rams volleyball at home on Thursday night against Weber Township in a cross-county battle. We'll have streaming video of that one on mywithersradio.com as well. And we will have the match on the radio, of course, presented by Community First Bank of the Heartland. Welcome back to Personal Banking, your title sponsor, of course, for Rams Athletics here on WMIX. Jared Shaner still to come. As we mentioned, Mountford and Rams meet the team last night. Unable to be there, unfortunately. He was at a fundraiser, of course, but we'll get to know the Mountford and Rams, a team that went 1-8 last year. I don't think had the season they expected. A lot of injuries held the Rams back, and hoping to improve upon that this year, but with a tougher schedule, Danny, as you know, the defending 4A state champions coming in. I'd like to get Coach Shaner's thoughts. I kind of texted him, razzing him a little bit in the offseason, of course, about linebacker Garrett Dooley of Rochester, of course, going not only to Wisconsin, of course, a program which Coach Shaner is very familiar with, but the fact that I believe he is in contention for the Butkus Award, or the high school version, or what have you.
High school version of the award, top 51 linebackers in the country in high school football. Dooley is in the running for that particular award, and when you have the skill set that he has, I mean, you just graduated a quarterback in December of this past year. It led you to back-to-back state titles as now the starting quarterback at Oklahoma State.
As a true freshman.
You know, he's in his second semester of classes, and he's going to start. And you're thinking, well, after that guy leaves, what they got left? Well, you got a guy that's in the top 51 linebackers, can run the ball as well, amongst other talent that probably doesn't get a lot of the ink yet.
Sure.
But will as the season goes on for the two-time defending Class 4A state champs.
Well, there's already talk coming out of Rochester that they might have another quarterback that could end up going to Division I. So what they've done there, Coach Leonard's just built up this tremendous pipeline, of course, out of the CS8, Central State 8, even though there's more than 8 teams in it still. A nice little pipeline there in Rochester. We'll talk with Coach Shaner about that. Of course, he has some familiarity, of course, with Lincoln, his previous stop, having also been in the Central State 8 Conference. We need to take a break here on the Saturday Sports Show. When we come back, we'll have Jared Shaner, head coach of the Mount Vernon Rams. This is the Saturday Sports Show on WMIX and MyWithersRadio.com, presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Johnson on the charge has got the low line. He puts a nose out for the lead.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series is on the Motor Racing Network. Coverage continues Sunday with the Pure Michigan 400 from Michigan International Speedway. Hear it live at 11 a.m. on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR. And for ticket information, go to motorracingnetwork.com.
Southern Illinois' FM home for the MRN is Q106.3.
Get PNB to Go mobile banking now at People's National Bank. Hi, this is Monica Wilt, relationship banker at People's National Bank. With PNB to Go mobile banking, check your balances, see transaction activity, transfer between accounts, and pay bills all from your mobile phone. PNB to Go mobile banking makes banking even more convenient. People's National Bank, making your life easier since 1909.
People's National Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
When an emergency happens, time is everything, and you don't want to spend that time in a waiting room. So choose Crossroads Community Hospital with our 30 minutes or less ER service pledge. The entire team is committed to working diligently to have you initially seen by a physician, physician assistant, or nurse practitioner within 30 minutes of your arrival. When minutes matter, choose the ER that doesn't waste time. Choose Crossroads Community Hospital. Visit crossroadscommunityhospital.com/faster to learn more. If you are experiencing a medical emergency, call 911.
And we welcome you back to the Saturday Sports Show, WMIX, MyWithersRadio.com. Glad to have you with us, of course, as always. Presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Figuring out some mic issues here in studio. We'll get that straightened out. Of course, now we welcome head coach of the Mount Vernon Rams football team, Jared Shaner, here for our South 7 Conference preview today. Coach Shaner, good morning.
Chris, Danny, how are you?
You know what? I'm doing pretty good. I can't speak for Danny over there. He looks like he's all right.
I'm good.
Good.
You sound like you're about to head somewhere, maybe to get a practice in or something along those lines.
I've already been at school for a couple hours. I'm actually running home to grab my children to come back out to school for practice.
Of course, Meet the Team night was last night at J.D. Shields Memorial Stadium. How'd that go?
It went really well. I was overall I was pleased with our kids. We definitely made some mistakes. Watched some film last night, and a few things that we need to correct. But overall, I was really happy with the way our kids, just their effort and their performance.
Of course, before we get into talking about the schedule, because it's a doozy this year, but tell us a little bit about the number of kids that have come out this year. I know I was able to sit down with you for a little bit last week, and I was just mesmerized by the number of kids that you said had come out.
Yeah, we have, and actually probably since we sat down, we had one or two freshmen who joined the team. We are at about 91 or 92 right now, so I'm pretty happy with that. I think a school our size, if we can consistently get right around 100 kids out, that's pretty good. Football is a unique sport. We've talked about this before, but typically you don't have cuts in football. You kind of take kids, and if they're willing to make the sacrifices that it takes to be a part of the football program, then you welcome them with open arms. So that's what we try to do.
The learning curve this year, is it a little different for you and your staff learning the kids and vice versa as far as coming into your second year?
Yeah, much less steep this year, I would say, which is a good thing. The kids, just offensively especially, after a year in the system, they understand it a lot better. And I think we're just going to continue to see that over and over with our youth program, developing kids and some things that we want to do with them, and then as they go on through their freshman and sophomore year and up into becoming varsity players, and definitely seeing that already this year, just in 1 year.
Of course, you lost some to graduation, but you do return some experience here in 2012. Switching defenses, rather, from the 4-4 to the 4-3-4, I believe. Is that something that the kids are picking up thus far?
Yeah, they are, and that was one spot. There were a few things last night, some communication errors and things, and that's going to happen. And I think you don't come out in week one or you meet the team night and look like state champions. I don't think anybody does that. You hope to improve throughout the year and gradually get better, and that's the goal. That you'll win enough along the way to play your best football in the 10th week of the season. So that's kind of what we're hoping.
It's already into practice, had the night, got that out of the way, obviously, last night. Did anybody get hurt last night?
Knock on wood, no injuries.
That's a good start.
The most severe injury we had of the evening, and I can say it somewhat jokingly now because he's okay, but after school we had an accident with one of our players involved. He was not driving, but he was in the car. Had to go to the hospital, and he didn't get a chance to participate last night, but he's doing fine.
Okay, so we got that out of the way, because sometimes these scrimmage games, everybody's got to do them. They're kind of like a necessary evil. Everybody's got to do them. You got to run everybody out there. You got to let them hit on each other. They've been hitting on each other for over a week. You got through that. Now you watch film today, you practice a little bit. What's the schedule going to be like next week? Do you still worry about Mount Vernon, or do you start throwing in things from your knowledge base about Rochester now as we get into Monday?
Both. I'm a big believer that fundamentals win football games, playing hard and fundamentals. But yeah, essentially it's both. We look at what we did on film last night at the scrimmage. Obviously, we didn't do any Rochester stuff. We didn't have any scout team stuff going on. We lined up our offense versus our defense, several different segments. So we'll look at that and say, hey, look at what we did poorly here. Let's improve on that. Let's focus on that in drills this week. And then the other side of the coin would be, we're going to start with, some film of our scrimmage last night. We'll also watch some Rochester film this morning, and we'll just, start going over all their stuff and preparing for them and what they do.
When you throw that Rochester film up, do you immediately stand in front of the TV or whatever and say, by the way, kids, the quarterback's not there anymore, don't watch him?
No, as a matter of fact, one of the quarterbacks is back, the kid from last year, and we haven't seen that one too much, but 2 years ago, that kid is gone. But I just try to impress upon him, hey, the kid that they have coming back, he might not be starting for an Oklahoma State good, but he's pretty stinking good himself. I've been told he played 4 games at quarterback last year, and the rumor is that either he's been offered or Eastern Illinois University is already looking at him. And if you've played 4 games of varsity quarterback and Division I schools are interested in you're pretty good.
I got to ask this: you being familiar with that part of the state, it seems like Rochester. Tell our listeners, one, where that's kind of located at, and two, your thoughts on how that school just all of a sudden became a football dominant power in the last decade or so.
Well, it's outside of Springfield, and I guess I kind of refer to it as a suburb of Springfield, although it's a few miles out there. It's I would call it an upper middle class community. A lot of very nice homes. Beautiful school. They've done some recent facilities upgrades and additions and things. Just a good family-based community, I would say. And as far as, the last couple of years really have, and I think to some people it's been a surprise, but I got to tell you, when I first started coaching at Olympia High School, we were in the Corn Belt Conference. Rochester started football, and a guy named Dave Jacobs, who's really well known throughout the state, started that program, and Dave did a great job right from the start. And they were competitive basically from the early years on and just continued to improve, and it just grew. And, congratulations to them. Their town really embraced it. And it helps when they have a really good head coach and a good coaching staff. It also helps when you've had 5 Division I quarterbacks in a row. Now, that's kind of which came first, the chicken or the egg type deal. But that definitely helps as well when you've got those athletes.
Beyond them, obviously, they're getting their ink. They're going to get their noise, well-deserved 2-time 4A champs. The rest of the schedule, once beyond that, last year 6 home games, this year 4. You have won the opening week. Then you have this stretch of 4 games out of 5 on the road. You go to Mascoutah, Triad, Marion, and Carbondale. Sandwiched in between their home game against Althoff. That's obviously one of the toughest stretches a team in Southern Illinois will face. What are you going to do to kind of offset all that road time, traveling those distances in those 4 weeks?
Well, like I said earlier, hopefully, the ultimate goal is to just improve a little bit each week. And I really believe, kind of one of my philosophies as a coach, whether it be football or, basketball, baseball, high school sports in general, get your kids to play hard and eliminate mistakes, and you're going to be in a lot of football games. When you deal with 15, 16, 17-year-old boys, if you can be consistent and not shoot themselves in the foot with silly penalties or mistakes, or basketball might be traveling violations or strikeouts in baseball, whatever the case might be. I think if you can do those fundamentals and those little things, you got a chance every week, and really that's what you play for, I guess.
Chance, obviously, there's very winnable games on this schedule. There's not really a game you look at and go, okay, Mount Vernon may not be in this one. Rochester coming down here helps. They got to ride that bus down here. Let them ride the cheese down. Talk about the South 7 Conference. Marion's kind of been the big dog for a few years. Centralia's kind of knocking on the door. Who do you see as maybe your favorite or a team that's kind of lurking in the shadows in this South 7 Conference this year?
That's a good question, and I'm not obviously. I've been around for a year. I know I can look back at records and things and see traditionally who's been on top, who hasn't, things like that. After 1 year, I got to tell you, I still feel pretty clueless, and the simple fact is I just feel like everybody is really pretty similar to each other. Obviously, we were down last year, and I think we're going to make a big rebound and really come back strong this year. But I just feel like there's so many teams, all the teams really, that on any Friday night, I feel like Althoff could beat Carbondale. Carbondale might play with and beat Cahokia. Marion gets in a close game with Centralia. So you kind of go down the list, and I just feel like everybody is right there, and it'll be really interesting, I guess, at the end of the year to see what separates the top from the bottom and who's got what wins and all those things.
Coach, as you know, with social media, Twitter, Facebook, and whatnot, obviously news travels a lot faster. Kids are much more aware of what's going on in other communities and high school sports now. Has word kind of trickled down to the kids? Have they been asking you about Garrett Dooley of Rochester, the linebacker that's committed to Wisconsin and is in line with the top 51 possibly for like the high school version of the Buckus Award? I mean, is that something that's come up, or do they even know that?
Oh, they know it. And we got it started for sure. I say the coaching staff, and I just want to impress upon them not to I don't want to be fearful of any opponent, but Rochester deserves respect. They're a really good football team. Obviously, Garrett is a great football player. And going to one of my favorite schools,
obviously,
and the kids have given me a little hard time about that, but they know it, and then. Yeah, I know that many of them, have been online, and there's lots of, YouTube highlight clips and things like that out there, and they're watching those things, and they're putting it all in the back of their mind, and I hope, I think, for quite a few of our kids, that's just a little added motivation.
Yeah, I can't believe this Wisconsin thing. You haven't gotten that out of your system yet.
No, I don't know if I will. Maybe if Coach Bielema heads somewhere else, then I will. But
I know. Well, I will say I'm amazed at how good of an interview he is. I was listening to the Jim Rome show on one of our sister stations this week, and on 1300 The Fan, of course, and I was amazed at how well versed and well spoken he is.
Yeah, he is. He's a really really good guy. We've talked about it a little bit, but for anybody listening that doesn't know, we're from the same hometown. We grew up, our parents still live a couple miles apart from each other. Him and my brother were in the same grade, and just a nice guy. Our town has about 1,700 people. So he is a real success story for our town, and a sense of pride for the community of Prophetstown and the high school, and He was a walk-on at Iowa, and really just through hard work, made himself what he is, and that's pretty neat. I think guys like that are pretty easy to root for.
Oh, exactly. And I've already kind of gone there with the social media aspect, but every week, as you may, I don't know if we did it a lot last year during football season, but WMIX Sports Question of the Week, and this week we're asking, since school's back in session, obviously for you, what was your favorite subject when you were going through school?
I would give you the typical PE answer, but actually I'm gonna throw you a little curveball here. Going back, it was probably Biology 1 and Biology 2.
Nice.
And the simple reason was, and this is really one of the reasons that I got into teaching and coaching. Folks out there can still go out and look him up. He's still currently the girls basketball coach at Prophetstown High School. Don Robinson was my biology teacher. Just a really neat guy. Has been a high school girls basketball coach for, I'm going to guess, 30 to 35 years now, and really motivated me, and every day was positive, energetic, always had a thought for the day or a quote for the day. And so science wasn't necessarily my favorite thing, but I just really enjoyed going to his class, and watching him teach, and he had an impact on my life, and so that's what it was. Nice.
You really did throw me a curveball. I'm left speechless now.
I wasn't ready for that one, I'll be honest.
No, it's true. Now, like I said, obviously I played sports. I was an athlete, and PE is fun. I really enjoyed that. My high school football coach was actually my art teacher, so I liked going down to his room. And my senior year, I won't even tell you my schedule. It wasn't. I wouldn't call it a demanding one by any means. But yeah, and like I said, it wasn't necessarily that science was my favorite thing in the world, but just the way he taught, and how he communicated with kids, and just somebody that, along with a lot of coaches that I've had along the way, just somebody that really influenced me in a positive way, and and I thought, hey, I'd like to do this for kids someday.
With school starting, you got to get out and tell them to pound the books early and often, don't you? With all the students.
We do. We focus on that every day at practice. Either pre-practice or at the end of practice when we're having our meeting and reminders and things. And I put our schedule up every day on the board for the kids, and they look at it, and that's the most important thing. They have to understand that their grades, their schoolwork are going to take them a lot farther than sports will. Right now, I think I mentioned it the other day, I don't know that we have any NFL guys on our roster, but we do have guys that are going to go on to college and into the military and get jobs, and they have to be, productive citizens in that regard, and that all starts in the classroom, being respectful and taking care of business there.
Excellent. Coach, I can't believe it, but Friday night against the Rochester Rockets, we'll see you then.
Hey, I'm looking forward to it.
As always, that's Jared Shaner, head coach of the Mount Vernon Rams, and his team looks to rebound from last season, of course. Tough matchup against Rochester to start. We'll talk more about that later on in the broadcast, of course, as we kind of recap everything that we've talked about with regard to the South 7 Conference today here on the Saturday Sports Show. It's presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
Yeah, it's what healthcare should be.
Kerry Martin's next after the break.
Do you feel like there isn't enough time to get everything done? Back to school bills draining your wallet? Hi, this is Joy Schrader, mortgage specialist with People's National Bank in Mount Vernon, and I can help. By refinancing your current mortgage to a lower rate mortgage with People's National Bank, you can put some of that money back in your wallet. Stop by today and let People's National Bank ease your back-to-school debt.
People's National Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
This Saturday night, Matt Castle and the Kansas City Chiefs invade the Dome to battle Sam Bradford and the Rams for the Governor's Cup.
Gives inside to Steven. Head of steam. First down and north. 30 to the 25.
Who will earn the bragging rights for another year?
Fires the crossing route. Clock. Fight for the end zone. He's in. Touchdown.
Pre-game at 6 p.m. Kickoff at 7 on the Rams Radio Network.
This is Steve Savard, your home for every down of St. Louis Rams football. Is AM 940 WMIX.
When an emergency happens, time is everything, and you don't want to spend that time in a waiting room. So choose Crossroads Community Hospital with our 30 minutes or less ER service pledge. The entire team is committed to working diligently to have you initially seen by a physician, physician assistant, or nurse practitioner within 30 minutes of your arrival. When minutes matter, choose the ER that doesn't waste time. Choose Crossroads Community Hospital. Visit crossroadscommunityhospital.com/faster to learn more. If you are experiencing a medical emergency, call 911.
And we welcome you back to the Saturday Sports Show, WMIX, MyWithersRadio.com. It's presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
Yeah, it's what healthcare should be.
That's right. South 7 Conference Preview Day is today. We just got done with Jared Shaner of the Mount Vernon Rams. Now we are considered a pleasure and a privilege to welcome Kerry Martin, head coach of the successful Marion Wildcats, to the program. Coach Martin, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys today?
I'm doing pretty good. I can't speak for DC, but
I'm
he looks
good, Coach. How's it going in Marion these days?
Really good, thanks.
I got to look at this, Coach. I've looked back and thought, I read some stuff up on Marion. Have you really been there 10 years already?
Hard to believe, isn't it? When I hear people say that, it's hard to believe it's been 10 years.
In your 10 years there, you had to come in and change some things, not only on the field but off. I guess the term would be culture. For a young coach that's out there maybe listening, a guy thinking about, or a gal getting into business, what does a coach have to do to change the culture like you did at Marion from what was there to what is there now, the expectations of winning every year for Marion football?
That's a good question. I'll try to give it a short answer. I think the first thing you've got to do is you've got to get the right people on your team. And I mean coaching staff-wise. Certainly you need the support of your administration. You need the support of your school board, your athletic director. And I've had all that here, which has really helped the process. So I think getting the right coaching staff on board was probably the next most important step. And people who share your philosophy, your belief, who will have your back maybe for those first couple of years that are pretty lean. And then I just think it's a lot. It's 1,000 little things. I had to sell myself to the community and make people believe in what I was believing. I went to every kind of social function and school concert and tried to be visible and promote the game of football that I love so much and has been so good to me. And there's a lot of things on the field you can do, of course, offensive philosophy-wise. You've got to develop an off-season program, certainly, that's going to make your kids stronger and more competitive. But those are the kinds of things that jump into my mind when I think about the things you need to do to rebuild a program. It is a 12-month effort, no doubt. It takes a lot of people to be involved to help you because you can't do it by yourself. And then you're looking for a class of kids. You hope it's your first year. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's your second or third year. But a class of kids that are going to buy into what you're trying to do. And then I think you'll start to see the change.
When you look at Marion, and obviously I take that back to South 7 Conference, when you first got in, it was an Althoff, Cahokia, and everybody else. Now everybody's kind of had their knock on the door. Mount Vernon's, Carbondale, Centralia, Marion. Everybody's gotten in, and now to me, your thoughts about how balanced this South 7 Conference is right now?
It's never been this balanced. I mean, every single Friday night, anybody can win. And that's not the case 10 years ago. You're right, it was kind of a two-pony race for a long time. And Mount Vernon, Carbondale, Centralia, Marion, we've made this a 16 race now. And I just think it's great. It's great football. It's been great for the conference. I think football is on the rise in the South 7. I think we're a better conference because of that. There's a tremendous amount of parity, and I think it's a good parity. It's not parity because everyone's taken a step back. I think it's parity because people have moved forward. And, it's a lot more stressful as a coach when you know that every single week you've got a battle on your hands, but I think it makes you a better football team and it makes you a better coach in the long run.
Better football team, and your team's been in the playoffs 7 years in a row. Last year, 7-3. Lost a lot of talent the last few years. Talk about the kids coming back in 2012 who you're going to rely on to be successful this year.
We'll return our quarterback, Matt Lewis. We return our starting tailback, Henry Jones, who replaced Shaquille Ivey about midseason and did a really nice job. We have some offensive linemen back in David Akery, Connor Jackson, and Brock Stiegel, which is a nice core group to have up front. We return John Evans, who played receiver for us. on defense. We've got 3 of our 4 defensive backs back. We were pretty young in the secondary last year, starting 2 sophomores. Those kids are now juniors, Jared Doris and Hunter Odom. Jake Weaver returns as a safety. We have a defensive lineman, J.D. Ray, back, and a linebacker in Troy Slinkard. So, there's a nice blend of different players with experience coming back in different places on the field, and I think it's going to help us. But certainly we've got some new faces that we're going to rely pretty heavily on. 5
home games. You do have 3 out of 4 road games at the end. But I look at the schedule, and that's a topic, that's a question out there not only for the South 7, but the river to river a little bit now is your schedule's changed. You've added Mattoon and Normandy, Missouri on the schedule. How did those games come about?
Well, we've been playing Highland since I've been here. I know it's been at least 10 years, something like that, close to 10 years we've played Highland, which is a really good high school program and had a great tradition, and they chose to, go a different direction and sign somebody else through their second week of the season, and maybe they just wanted to change for the sake of change. I understand that. Week 9, Heron wanted to, do something different, move the Marion game to week 1. We still had a contract with Granite City, and so we were kind of a year off. They were ready to play week 1. We still had a year on our Granite City contract, so they've gone ahead and they're doing something different week 9. We're hoping in the future we can work out a week 1 date with Heron, but for right now, we went on a search for a week 9 game, and we really couldn't find much until we ran across a team out of St. Louis called Normandy High School. So, it's just one of those things. Mount Vernon has been through it as much as anybody, knowing that sometimes road games and out-of-conference games are going to require quite a bit of a drive, and we're experiencing that this year.
Well, and is that something that you're finding to be a little bit more difficult now with your recent success and also your size of enrollment? Is it becoming more difficult to find games?
It is. And, when most of Southern Illinois is smaller than us, Class 4A, primarily 3A and 2A, it's more difficult for us to find games, and that's understandable. So, it's just part of it. We get kind of spoiled sometimes, I think, when you're coaching the North Egypt, the old North Egypt Conference, or the Black Diamond, or the Southwest Egyptian, like I have, and you're so accustomed to playing some really great local rivalries, and we're kind of losing that a little bit in the South 7, and I know all the South 7 teams are doing quite a bit of traveling in non-conference games. It's just part of it. It's no one's fault, really. Sometimes it's a tribute to the success you've had, and you just got to go out and continue to find games, and if you're playing better competition, you got to improve your program and go and compete. And so we're looking at it as a way to maybe prepare us even better for the playoffs, and certainly the playoffs involve a lot of road trips that can be a long distance. So we look at it as an opportunity, not an obstacle.
Do you think that you're going to see, if the system in IHSA stays the same, 6 wins, you're in the playoffs, do you think you might see a change where you're going to see more Heron and Massac things, where they're going to be playing twice in a regular season, that some of your schools, as in the northern part of the state, are going through, they're going to have to play teams twice in order to get 9 games in?
Yeah, I've never really seen that. I've never really seen that before until I've been hearing more about it lately. I really don't know. I mean, I think it's always exciting to play some different people and, to expand your schedule and get out there and see what other programs are doing. But I realize sometimes that may not be the case. You may, instead of driving 4 or 5 hours, you may need to play someone local maybe a second time. I don't know. I've never really considered it. But, I know scheduling is an issue. It's an issue for a lot of schools for a lot of different reasons. And it seems like it's harder now than it was when I first got into coaching a long time ago. And it's kind of a challenge for schools. And depending on where you're located and what your success or lack of success has been, it can be a tough thing for athletic directors to find ball games.
Now, Coach, I got to warn you, a good friend of mine now down there is your boys basketball coach, and his college football lineage is Miami U. So you're going to have to be careful, because you got a guy like that that roots Miami U. You don't tell him what might be going on now when you bring in a hurricane into the program.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. I really believe that. I think just to watch our coaching staff in football, I think, improve over the years, and now basketball with Shane Hawkins here, and we're thrilled. I mean, it's going to be exciting to watch the things that he can do.
Coach, our last question. We typically like to go off topic, of course, with our final question. We call it our WMIX Sports social media question. And this week's question is, going through school, what was your favorite subject to study?
Ooh. You know what? It's interesting you say that, because I always feel like, I'm a history guy. I'm a history teacher. I loved history even when I was younger. But probably the class that stands out in my mind the most was a biology class. It was taught by a man named Kirby Phillips, maybe the best high school teacher I ever had. And I wouldn't consider myself a fan of biology. I was a fan of him, and I was a fan of the class and the way he taught it. So I give out a little tribute to Kirby Phillips because of what an amazing teacher. He made a guy like me love biology my sophomore year in high school.
Wow. Jared Shaner said almost the exact same thing, obviously a different coach, but that's incredible.
Yeah, I think it had an influence on me as far as a teacher. I think I saw that sometimes it's not the subject, it's the instructor, and I think a good teacher can bring about a passion for a subject that maybe you didn't even know you liked, but they can light a fire in there. And Kirby did that for me, certainly, and he was my sophomore football coach and one of the greatest coaches that I've ever known. He was a great track and cross-country coach at Salem, but people don't realize that before that he was a great football coach there, and an amazing teacher. But really, if you can teach in the classroom, you ought to be a good coach, and he was both. So I was fortunate to have him as my teacher.
Very nice, Coach. We can't wait to talk to you again, probably after a few early wins to start your season. But if not, well, of course, we look forward to seeing you a little bit later on in the season.
That sounds great. Anytime.
Thank you, Coach Kerry Martin, head coach of the Marion Wildcats, and, of course, biology.
Yeah, that's 2 in a row.
I mean,
you could have guessed a lot of things today.
We do need to get to Dan Koester, and we'll do that here in a moment. But I'm blown away by that. And, of course, we'll get to our favorite courses in just a moment here on the Saturday Sports Show. But I'm speechless. I mean, obviously the rationale is good behind it, and we all have that class that just kind of influenced us. But you can join in the discussion, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter. WMIX Sports be the locales for those. And what was your favorite subject? If you're still in school, what is your favorite subject? And before we go to break, don't forget, drive one for your school today at Ford Square for the Mount Vernon Rams and Lady Rams athletic programs. Test drive a select Ford or Lincoln model, and $20 per vehicle will go back to the Mount Vernon Township High School athletic programs. It's going on today, 9 until 3 at Ford Square. Raise up to $6,000, make that $8,000, because if you go back and test drive an Escape, up to $10 per Escape driven, up to $200, I believe, will go back to Mount Vernon Township High School. So a chance to raise up to $8,000 for Mount Vernon Township High School today. It'll be Woodlawn next week, so get to Ford Square the next couple of weeks and test drive a vehicle to help out our kids. Saturday Sports Show, of course, presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Back after these.
We're days away from Mount Vernon Rams football. This season, WMIX and Community First Bank team up to bring you the best Rams broadcast coverage. Friday, August 24th, the Rams host defending 4A state champion Rochester. Join Chris Hugo and Danny Zerwinski for the Rams and Rockets on AM 940 or watch online at mywithersradio.com. Pre-game at 6:40, kickoff at 7 on WMIX and mywithersradio.com. Powered by Community First Bank. Welcome back to Personal Banking.
More Americans are on the move today than ever before. One of the most popular modes of transportation is the motorcycle. Motorcycles take us to our jobs, school, to the beach, and all around the country. If you're a bike rider, your Pekin Insurance Agency, Page Insurance on Crownview in Mount Vernon, wants to make sure you have the best insurance protection while you're riding. Ask about the money-saving auto cycle discount and the experienced driver discount, too. Call Page Insurance at 242-7000 today about motorcycle insurance from Pekin Insurance.
This is Steve Savard. Your home for Rams football is AM 940 WMIX.
Hello, I'm Morgan. A few months ago, my gynecologist said that I needed surgery, a hysterectomy. I thought for sure I'd have to leave Southern Illinois to have it done, but I was surprised to find out that not only could Good Samaritan Regional Health Center do the surgery, they had one of the nation's most advanced surgical systems. They called it the Da Vinci. It was basically this robot that translated whatever movements the surgeon was making into even tinier, more precise movements. My doc even told me that over 100 of these procedures had been done at Good Samaritan. Well, the surgery went great, and I was out of the hospital in no time. And because I was close to home, my whole family was with me every step of the way. Good Samaritan is my new hospital of choice. And starting in 2013, they'll be opening an all-new regional health center with even more advanced services. It makes me happy to know they'll still be around when my kids have families and need specialized medical care. That means a lot to me.
Good Samaritan Regional Health Center. Raising a hospital, raising the bar.
The 2012 model year end clearance event is in full swing. Hi, Mike Russell, General Manager, Schmidt Ford of Salem. If a deal is what you've been waiting for, now is the time. On select models, choose from 0% financing or rebates up to $6,000. Trade your current vehicle in and receive up to $1,000 additional rebate on many models. Are you a Farm Bureau member? Great. Receive an additional $500 on most models. You can see the time to save is now. Come see us at Schmidt Ford of Salem, 1815 West Main, Salem, Illinois, or give us a call at 618-548-1711.
And we welcome you back to the Saturday Sports Show, WMIX, MyWithersRadio.com. Glad to have you with us for our South 7 football preview, courtesy of Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Proud to welcome back to the program now from the Carbondale Terriers. He is head coach Dan Koester. Coach Koester, good morning.
Good morning. How's it going?
It's going pretty well. Terriers had a nice season last year, of course, beating Harrisburg in Week 9 to get into the postseason. Unfortunately, had to meet a tough Glenwood team, of course, out of the Central State 8 Conference. Just seems to be a different brand of football up there. But, you know, you've had some success down there in Carbondale now. How do you keep that momentum going into 2012?
Well, we first thing we got to do is we got to get over the hump of just making the playoffs. We have to expect to make the playoffs every year. Now our goal has to be to get a first-round home playoff game here in Carbondale and kind of go from there and see what happens.
You're doing some things differently this year in practice. You mentioned in the media some intensity changes in your practice. Tell our listeners what that means as far as coaching and coaching kids goes.
Well, you know, not only the players, we got to have more intensity, but the coaching staff as well. You know, it's got to be fun. It's got to be enthusiastic. And, you know, it's got to be important to everybody. And, you know, as the kids progress through high school and as they invest a lot of time in the weight room and a lot of time at camps, and the coaches do the same thing at clinics, the more time you put in, the more important it becomes to you, and that increases the overall intensity of practice.
You're going through a little different thing this year in field and camp. Other coaches in the area, Todd Rushing at Pinckneyville, Dennis Trust at Carterville, among others. You're going through a first year without your son being on the football team, or your son obviously at SIU. How does that different feel to you this year in camp?
It's tough. You know, Cade and I had a great relationship, and, you know, I go watch him practice at SIU, but, you know, it's, you know, Cade being my son, it's just not him. There was other great players last year, Jordan Bowlby, John Sarvella, Mikey Kelly, our kicker, and you're going to lose good players every year, and you just got to have the next bunch of seniors step up and become the leaders of the team, and I think we've been lucky enough to have that situation.
Speaking of that next bunch of seniors, tell our listeners some of those players you're going to rely on this 2012 season.
We have about 20 seniors. Several of them have been two-year starters. This will be their third year starting. Jerron Warren has stepped up to become a leader on the defense. Dion Woolley, Isaiah Jones both started last year. Tyrell Robinson's a junior. He started last year. So we have a lot of kids returning defensively. And then offensively is probably where our most experience is. Justin Hoffman at quarterback. He's a junior, but he started last year as a sophomore and had a good year. Bryce Reno Gibson's a two-year starter at slot. Marquise Edmonds, two-year starter at tight end. Shamark Bursey started on defense last year. He's going to be our wingback this year. Michael Andre played a little defense last year. He's going to start on offense. And we also have two or three offensive linemen that started last year, Jacob Gartner, Kyle Turner, Anhil Agarwal. They all did a great job. So, you know, going into this season, experience is definitely one of our strengths.
I kid when I say this, but it seems like Bryce Reno Gibson's been in that program, 10 years? It seems like he's been around forever.
He came in after 8th grade. He came to, you know, one of our first camps, and he actually played in a 7-on-7 tournament right after his 8th grade year. He got a few plays in. So, yeah, it seems like he's been here for a long time, and, you know, it's a situation with Bryce that, you know, like Cade and like Jordan Bowlby, whenever he leaves next year, it's going to be different without him. But, you know, other people have to step up, and, you know, we're really expecting Bryce to have a big year this year. Looking
at your schedule, you and Murfreesboro have one of the last bastions of tradition, I guess, or a historic rivalry with Heron and Marion not being played this year, and others have gone by the boards. Explain to our listeners up here in this area what it means and what's going to happen with next Friday night when Murphy and Carbondale get together in football.
Well, yeah, you know, and it's not just football. It's basketball, it's softball, it's golf, it's wrestling, it's everything. And it's not just two teams getting together to compete. It's two schools, it's two communities, and we expect a lot of people here next Friday. Murphy ended on a positive last year. They finished 4-5. They're going to be improved, and it's a fun rivalry. And not only the players, the all the people in the school, everybody in the community, it's something they look forward to. Not just the beginning of the football season, but year round. It gives us something to focus on throughout the season. I know over at Murphy they have a little countdown to when they play Carbondale in football, and we have the number of days listed up in our weight room. And I think right now we're down to 7 and maybe even 6 days or so, and it's going to be here before you know it, and it should be a great game.
Speaking of being here before you know it, your schedule, unlike others in the area, Mount Vernon, Marion, in the conference, Centralia, your schedule stays the same. Are you foreseeing any schedule issues in the future, or are you guys pretty stable as far as your schedule goes?
I think we're pretty stable. We've got a great schedule. We have, a lot of teams that I think 7 of the teams we played last year made the playoffs, 6 or 7. Murphy just missed. Cahokia just missed the playoffs. And I expect Mount Vernon to be much improved this year. And, the best thing about having a challenging schedule is it keeps you focused week in and week out. It keeps the intensity up, and, overall it keeps the players focused and working hard every day.
Of course, Coach, I know it's a busy day, obviously, trying to get through to the season opener on Friday with practices and whatnot. Before we let you go, we like to ask kind of an off-topic question every week to all of our guests. And this week's WMIX Sports social media question is, in school, what was your favorite topic of study? What was your favorite subject?
I would probably say accounting, believe it or not.
Nice.
I loved accounting. I actually went to school to become an accountant, but, after going through some of those classes and thinking about sitting at a desk 8 hours a day, that just wasn't going to happen. But I would say accounting was probably my favorite class.
Now, a couple of your brethren, Coach Martin and Coach Shaner, they threw in the biology answer today. So we've got 2 biologies and an accounting right now in the South 7 Conference.
Well, I can see Coach Shaner and Coach Martin both being science kind of guys, and I tell you what, those 2 guys off the field, they are 2 great individuals, and they do a great job at their school, and I enjoy spending a lot of time talking with both those guys. But I can see them as biology teachers.
Coach, this is nothing against accountants or accounting majors, but from your people skills and from your success on the football field, I'd say you made the right decision.
Well, I appreciate that, and I tell you what, it's definitely a challenge. You get to meet a lot of interesting young men, to say the least, and our coaching staff, we've kind of changed our philosophy here at Carbondale. It's not anymore what can these kids do for our program, but we kind of look at it, what can our program do for these kids, and I think we've made a big turnaround. A lot of these kids are going on to college, and sometimes that may have not been the case, and I'm proud of the work that our coaches have done for us.
Outstanding. Coach, we look forward to having you on again this season, and if not before, we'll see you at some point, I believe week 6 or around there.
That sounds good. Thanks for calling.
Thanks, Coach. That's Coach Dan Koester, of course, Carbondale Terriers. And, I was a Fred Hines guy. I thought the world of him, but I think Coach Koester's done a great job at Carbondale, and of course his roots in Effingham. Effingham's been now has a long-standing football tradition. Unfortunately, no Friday night playoff game for us to attend last year. Maybe that'll change this year. We're selfish, by the way. We like to see as many football games as we can in the postseason.
We've added some Friday spots now recently. We got 2 other choices that usually go Friday nights.
I remember running into our next guest today, Friday night playoff game last year. Of course, Ray Kauling at Centralia Orphans will come at the top of the hour here on the Saturday Sports Show. Don't forget you can join in the discussion on Facebook or Twitter at WMIX Sports on both. What was your favorite subject in school? It could have been elementary school, primary school, however you want to terminalize that. Could be high school, college, whatever. We'll get to ours later in the 9 o'clock hour. I'm going to have a tough choice to make. I had so many influences, of course, at Mount Vernon High School and at SIU and McKinney. We won't even go there. But a lot of courses, of course, that influenced me over time, and I'm sure yours probably has something to do with Coach Belva, I'm sure.
Yeah. Coach Belva is always in the mix with me some way. There's another teacher I'll mention, Mr. Bob Frakes, another one.
Sure.
Then you go down into junior high, there's a handful there. I could go on a list of where I'm at, what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, how I do it. Speak clearly and distinctly rings in my mind from 8th grade English.
Sure.
I can hear it to this day.
I was very blessed in grade school, especially, to have a great social science and communications education. I actually just had a great overall elementary education to begin with. Our math was supreme. I mean, you name it. I felt like our science was pretty solid. Of course, I had a lot of great teachers in elementary and high school alike. So we'll talk on that a little bit later in the 9 o'clock hour. Ray Kauling, Mike McManus, and our special guest to be named, Still to come here on the Saturday Sports Show. Before we go to break, do not forget, Ford Square today to drive one for your school event for Mount Vernon Township High School. It'll start in about 2 minutes and 18 seconds from about 9 until 3 o'clock today at Ford Square. Go to the rear entrance of the showroom. And Mount Vernon coaches will be waiting to take you on a test drive of a Ford or Lincoln motor vehicle. $20 for that vehicle test driven will go back to Mount Vernon Township High School's athletic programs. You can raise up to $8,000 today. They'll have more information on it when you get there, but there will be no pressure. They don't pressure you anyway, but there will be no pressure to buy today. You're not test driving with a sales staff member or a sales associate, as they like to say. You'll be test driving with a Mount Vernon Township High School coach. That's going on until 3 o'clock at Ford Square. Help out Mount Vernon. It's Woodlawn's turn next week. Saturday Sports Show is presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
We're back after these.
The 2012 Chrysler 200 is the fastest growing sedan in its class, which is precisely why only a few remain at King City Chrysler Center. Hi, Roy Schmidt, Chrysler dealer in Mount Vernon. With 0% financing for up to 72 months or up to $3,500 in cash-back rebates, we expect our remaining Chrysler 200s to move quickly. A top safety pick with best-in-class horsepower and fuel economy, as well as a touchscreen radio, you can get where you're going quickly and safely with a touch of luxury. See one of our sales associates today at King City Chrysler Center, Mount Vernon, or see our selection at kingcitychrysler.com. Also, did you know King City Chrysler is also a rental car location? Whether you want to take a weekend drive or feel like a celebrity on vacation in a luxury ride, Hertz can help you get the job done. You can find them on location right here at King City Chrysler Center, 1603 Broadway, Mount Vernon, and find us on Facebook.
Broadcasting from the powerhouse on Broadway, WMIX, Mount Vernon, and all of Southern Illinois. Another Withers Broadcasting station.
Just about everyone is trying to save money these days, especially when it comes to drugs and pharmaceutical products. Did you know the medicine shop can, and in many cases, offer better prices than the big discount stores?
People need to know that independent pharmacy, in almost every case, is able to offer the same or better pricing than the chains can offer.
Remember, your insurance price and copay is the same wherever you go. For cost savings and great service, try the Medicine Shop, 2339 Broadway in Mount Vernon.
If your definition of local is Southern Illinois and adjacent states, pay no attention to this message. Hi, I'm Joe David Cummins, President of Community First Bank. Others advertise the message of being a local community bank. However, Community First Bank is the only local community bank exclusively serving Jefferson County with 5 locations and 5 ATMs. In short, loans and deposits stay local and benefit you.
Community First Bank with locations in Mount Vernon, Woodlawn, Dix, and Ina. Welcome back to Personal Banking. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
And we welcome you back to the Saturday Sports Show, WMIX, MyWithersRadio.com, presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Chris Hugo with Danny Zerwinski in studio. Of course, don't forget our WMIX Sports question of the week is, what was or is your favorite subject to study in school? It's our South 7 football preview going on now. And we are pleased to welcome one of the South 7 Conference champions from a year ago. He is the head coach of the Centralia Orphans. He is Ray Kauling. Coach, good morning.
Morning. How are you guys doing?
You know, we're doing pretty good. Obviously, things are going very well for you there in Centralia, and I know I've asked you this like almost every time we've had you on, but my first question is, now that you've made that postseason run, you've won a conference crown, what is the community support like in Seatown?
It's been pretty good the whole time, but, you know, I think when you have the season like we did last year, first time in a long time, I think people just get a little bit more excited.
When you look at this, did you think it would go this fast to get to this point of winning a season, get to the playoffs, or do you think it'd take a little bit more time?
We said when we came in, we thought it'd be 4 years. So we think we were a little ahead of the curve, but at the same time, we're not going to give those victories back.
And I wouldn't either. Why would you want to give them back, right?
Exactly.
You don't want to give them back. You got them. Why not take them, right?
Right.
You get in this year, and you had an offense last year. I'm looking 46, 52, 40, 31, 32. A phenomenal offense, phenomenal numbers. Is that something that was expected out of this group from last year?
We felt we could be really good offensively last year. I thought we'd be a little bit better defensively as the season progressed. But things happened. You know, we had some injuries. But we were able to move the ball. pretty much at will against pretty much everybody.
Speaking of everybody, this year, South 7 Conference, you tied with Marion last year. You get Marion at home this year in Week 7, but not looking that far down the way. The South 7 Conference in general, is it as balanced as it's ever been for you as far as a participant or as an onlooker?
As far as I can tell, in quite a while. I think it's a good league. I think everybody's pretty competitive. I don't think there's, everybody's going to look to Coach Martin and Marion, and everybody knows that we've got a couple decent players coming back, but I think Carbondale could be pretty good. I think Althoff and Cahokia are pretty good. At the same time, I think Mount Vernon in year 2 with Coach Shaner could be better.
You mentioned some talent coming back. Let's talk a little bit about the 2012 Orphans. Who might we see in some of your skill positions and on defense?
Well, I think everybody around knows we got Rashad Campbell and Diamond Sasaki. So, Rashad will be one of our running backs. He'll also split out as a receiver. And Diamond will play quarterback. And then we've got a few other kids coming back. Mason Watson has some good experience as a receiver. Other than that, a lot of our kids are untested offensively, except for the guys up front. We do have 4 guys back up front. Mark Posig, Drew Shores, Dustin McKelb, and Jason Boyer all have every rep of every game last year. We were very fortunate. We played 5 offensive linemen every play of every game last year.
This year, a change to your schedule. You have done something different in Week 3. You've added Effingham, which replaced Highland, as Highland's gotten off a couple of schedules here in Southern Illinois. With your success, do you see this kind of as a trend for Centralia to have difficulty going out and finding a game or two on the non-conference slate?
Oh, I don't think so. I liked the Effingham game when I was at Mater Dei. I think it's a good game for us here. It's a good tester. Plus, it's an easy drive straight up the interstate.
Now to set out of your other schools on the non-conference, obviously Salem, a big rivalry, Marion County next Friday night. How big is that as far as importance to not only Centralia but to Salem as well?
Well, I've learned that for people here in Centralia, it's a lot like the game, the Milk Bowl was when I was at Breeze. You don't want to lose to your rival, and you want to be able to beat the guys in your backyard.
Definitely so, and of course a big Marion County, of course Centralia in multiple counties, of course, but a big Marion County matchup for the most part. And as we look ahead to the rest of this season, outside of the Orphans, of course, whom do you look for to maybe be right up there for the South 7 Conference crown this year?
Yeah, that's such a tough question to answer right now. I mean, I look for it to be very balanced. I don't think the conference champion will have no losses. I think it'll be a 1-loss conference champion. I just don't think any of us can go without a loss, knowing how balanced the league is.
Understandable. And of course, our mission with our final question every week is try to catch you a little bit off guard. It'll be off topic. Our WMIX Sports social media question of the week this week is, with school starting up, what was your favorite subject in school to study?
Lunch.
Out of all people that would say lunch and or recess, I had you pegged to be one of those.
No, really, I loved American history.
Nice. Very nice.
Maybe it was because of the teacher. The teacher was our defensive coordinator on the football team, and him and I had a great relationship and still do. Maybe that was part of it, but yeah, I loved American history.
Very nice.
Well, your other cohorts went down the biology accountant path in Mount Vernon, Marion, and Carbondale, so we're kind of getting the gist of the whole high school curriculum here between all those topics right now and 4 coaches so far.
Well, Coach Martin surprises me. I mean, he's a history teacher, isn't he?
Yeah. Coaches are always throwing curveballs. You never know what you guys are going to come up with, just as much as we don't know what we're going to ask sometimes.
That is true.
There's no doubt about that.
Of course, the Orphans get started Friday night at 7:30 on the Shrine Bowl with Salem. Good luck there, and also congratulations on your engagement.
Thank you.
That is Ray Kauling, of course, of the Centralia Orphans, and you know what? Successful. everywhere he's been. Yeah. I mean, he set a 4-year plan. He did it in 3.
3 years.
I mean, and with the offense and the firepower that they return, there's no reason that with a little bit more stability defensively that they're not going to be right back up the top of the heap. And what's amazing about it is how he has turned Centralia, and they kept looking for that guy and looking for that guy. He has turned Centralia in just 3 years from the automatic pick at the bottom of the conference to now being mentioned at the top of the heap every year.
Thing to think about, I just tweeted at WMIX Sports. Centralia scored 30 or more points in 9 of 10 games, scored 40 or more points in 7 of those 10 games. That's the prolific offense they had last year. The key is, can their defense step it up a notch?
Sure.
That's the thing. They can score some points. The 2 guys they mentioned, they're going to score points. The question is, can their defense stop it? They got a favorable schedule, except to the end throughout 4 road games at the end, but Marion at home, that'll help in the conference.
Well, and it definitely will. And, get them at Edwards Field this year, see how that plays out. And you look at that schedule with Salem and I believe Civic in week 2, if I'm not mistaken, picking up Effingham. That'll be a good Friday night matchup in week 3. And then to finish out their non-conference slate, of course, the Orphans in week 9. I believe that's where Mascoutah went because I believe they originally had Mascoutah in week 2 a couple of years ago. Then we picked up Mascoutah week 2. But beyond that, we'll see how it goes for the Centralia Orphans here in 2012. Don't forget it's a drive one for your school event at Ford Square today. Of course, you can test drive any Ford or Lincoln, select Ford or Lincoln motor vehicle, and $20 per vehicle test driven. We'll go back to the Mount Vernon Rams and Lady Rams athletic programs today. It's now until 3 o'clock. Of course, raise up to $8,000. You must be 18 to test drive. You'll test drive with the Mount Vernon Township High School coach, so no need to worry about a sales associate test driving with you. There's no pressure anyway there, but there especially won't be in this instance today. It's a great fundraiser. You can get up to $8,000 if you go back, of course, and test drive a Ford Escape. $10 per Escape test driven will go into addition to the possible $6,000. So you can raise up to $8,000 a day for Mount Vernon Township High School. It's a good event. Get out there until 3 o'clock at Ford Square. The Saturday Sports Show, meanwhile, is driven by Crossroads Community Hospital. We need to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have Mike McManus. Mike, of course, is the sports editor for the Morning Sentinel, but he also serves a dual capacity as he is one of the voices of the Centralia Orphans on our sister station, X95 in Centralia. We'll take that break. We're presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Back after these.
It happens every summer. You need a great quality vehicle, and that's where Second Chance Auto comes in. Family owned for the past 32 years, Second Chance Auto has been the cure for summer new car fever. No one has a better selection of vehicles priced under $10,000. Almost all their vehicles come with a generous 3-month, 3,000-mile warranty. There are no dock fees, no shipping fees, and no processing fees like those new car dealerships. Just low prices. Second Chance Auto, Route 142 East in Mount Vernon. Call 244-4582. Second Chance Auto.
Save thousands of dollars on your education at Ren Lake College. RLC offers over 100 degree and certificate programs allowing you to get to work or transfer to a 4-year university. The fall semester is quickly approaching, but there's still time to enroll with walk-in registration through Friday, August 17th. RLC's trained counselors will help with registration and scheduling. Classes are conveniently located on campus and in-district locations near you. For more information, log on to rlc.edu or contact Ren Lake College's academic counselors at 437-5321, extension 1266.
When an emergency happens, time is everything, and you don't want to spend that time in a waiting room. So choose Crossroads Community Hospital. With our 30 minutes or less ER service pledge, the entire team is committed to working diligently to have you initially seen by a physician, physician assistant, or nurse practitioner within 30 minutes of your arrival. When minutes matter, choose the ER that doesn't waste time. Choose Crossroads Community Hospital. Visit crossroadscommunityhospital.com/faster to learn more. If you are experiencing a medical emergency, call 911.
And we welcome you back to the Saturday Sports Show, WMIX and MyWithersRadio.com. We're proud to welcome to the show now, of course, presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
There we go. That out of the way. We're proud to welcome to the program. He is the sports editor at the Morning Sentinel and, of course, one of the voices of the Centralia Orphans on sister station X95, Mike McManus. Leo, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
You know what? It's always a great morning when we're looking at less than 6 days. Of course, your summer, Mike, is about to end at 6 days or maybe earlier with some volleyball action, or it may have already ended. But nonetheless, high school sports are here, and it's about time.
Yeah, it's time to get back to work. I always, when American Legion season comes to an end for our local teams, is when I get all my vacation absorbed for the year, and that sand runs out of the hourglass on Monday. So we'll get back after it, and really looking forward. I got a chance to take in a little football last night with a red-white scrimmage up in Centralia, and kind of get those juices flowing again and get ready for Friday night.
All kinds of things going on. Golf, volleyball, cross-country, tennis, football, junior high. Anything that stands out or could stand out to you or in your mind over the next few weeks?
Well, we cover such a broad area, or I personally see so many sports, so many teams from so many places. I think a couple things stand out. I think number one, first and foremost on the mind of people in Centralia was what can Ray Kauling and the Orphans do for an encore? 8-2 last year, the most wins in over 30-plus years, and a half of the conference title with Marion. What? I don't think they were a one-hit wonder. I think this team has a chance to be awfully good again this year. But I think a lot of teams, I'm going to echo what Ray said. We talked about it. I think everybody's pretty good in our league. I don't see a team that there's not a team that you can look at and go, well, we should be good there. Or, two other teams, if you're not involved, well, they ought to kill those guys. I don't see it. I think it's I don't know that it's a great league, but I know we've got 6 pretty good football teams. I think that's the big thing. And then, of course, in some of the other sports that I cover, one of the teams I'm really looking forward to seeing, and will on Wednesday, I think Quinn McClure's got a pretty good group of golfers down at Mount Vernon. And really looking forward to seeing them at Carbondale at Hickory Ridge on Wednesday. What can Mater Dei's volleyball do for an encore after another state championship? And they lost so many good players, but you guys are pretty well versed with Mater Dei volleyball. They just simply put more bullets back in the chamber and they start firing. I think those are the big ones. Nashville girls golf. Doug Kell, the Centralia native over there, my goodness, he's sitting on a wealth of talent. I think those will be the things I'm really kind of going to be keen in on this fall. But again, those Friday night lights kind of trump everything else, and we're really looking forward to getting that football season up and rolling Friday night. You touched on the Kokia Conference a little bit, and let's go those Friday night lights. Central in the playoffs last year, second round. Mater Dei gets in the playoffs last year, second round. That's not Kokia, but that's Mater Dei, Breeze. Other teams you see in that Kokia Conference that looks like could be a front runner in that conference? Well, I think Scotty Horner and Columbia, Danny. I think they're the team to beat. They return a bunch from last year, from a good club last year. As far as locally, Central will be good. Austin Rickoff is a 3-year starter at that quarterback spot. They lost some good skilled kids, but they bring quite a few back as well. Freeburg, I think, will be better. Carlisle's just fighting that numbers game. They won a playoff game last year. But I think Randy, Coach Dooley's sitting on about 22 kids. And it just makes it so tough. They can afford no injuries. And the problem is, they're coming. You're going to get a couple kids dinged up, banged up. He lost a great quarterback last year in the Smith kid. And then his top wide receiver, Cornelius Walker, who was an All-Stater, transferred to Collinsville. The family moved to Collinsville. So they're dealing with a lot at Carlisle. The rest of that league, to be honest, I don't know a thing about Redbud. Like I said, I think Freeburg will be good, but I think most folks are pointing towards Columbia being the team to beat in the Kokia. Is that Carlisle's 22 kids in the entire program, or just varsity speaking? Sophomore through. Okay. I think they've got 15 freshmen. They just fight that numbers game, and they always have. My goodness, for the last 20, 25 years, they've just really struggled with a lot of numbers. And then they brought soccer into the mix about 4 years ago, and that kind of dinged them a little bit more in the numbers game, or at least in the fight for it. It made it really tough, as it does on a lot of schools. I know Westland, Brandon Murphy at Westland has really fought numbers the last couple of years. And, everybody says, well, you can only play at 11 at a time, but you've got to be able to have depth. And it's hard enough at a school of 300, 350 to find depth, let alone then now you're competing with all these other sports trying to trying to get the best athletes over to your side. And when they have options, what some people might think are safer options to look at, sometimes kids go that way with golf, with soccer, with cross country, with those types of things. But I just see that conference, that league. I think it's Columbia, and I think Lee Central's just right behind them a little.
I'm looking at that, too, because I think that's part of Columbia's downfall. Because back in the mid part of the last decade, Columbia was solid under Scott Horner, perennial playoff power, semifinals one year at home, lost to Coin, and all of a sudden they swan dive and nobody could figure it out. The soccer comes in, and it's hard. When you have soccer, cross country, and golf, that's three boys' sports battle with football. If you get a school too small like a Carlisle and Columbia, you run out of athletes and kids to play, and you can't have it.
Right, it's tough, and especially in the Metro East, which is such a soccer hotbed. I mean, those schools closer to the river may have 50, 60 kids out for soccer. I mean, it is a big, big deal, and sure, it makes it tough. Columbia, I think they're a little bit bigger than some of these other schools. They're sitting around 640, 650. They might even be a little bigger than that now. I think a lot of folks figured out what a great community it is and are moving that way out of St. Louis. But, they have fought numbers as well. I mean, you don't see rosters with 55, 60 kids. If they've got 35 or 40 and you just got to hope that out of that group, you can find 22 to get the job done.
Of course, let's go across your county a little bit from Marion County, from Centralia to Salem. Of course, Kevin Green will be in his second year. Orphans open up with them in the annual Shrine Bowl, of course, at 7:30 on Friday on X95. Wildcats, I believe, finished 3-6 last year. Of course, some turnover in the Apollo Conference. They had to pick up some new teams on their schedule, Clifton Central, Carterville, among others. And looks like it could be a volatile year for the Wildcats, a team that could either go 3-6 again or maybe sneak in 5-4.
Boy, they're really young. They are going to be extremely young. They got a 50-player roster with 12 seniors. A few first-timers out. They're going to start a young man at quarterback who took a couple varsity snaps last year as a freshman. But they're big on Colton Harness, their quarterback. They like him. They think he's got a chance to be pretty good in time. They lost almost all of their skill position kids. Their two leading receivers are gone. Their top three rushers from a year ago have graduated. One of their kids, and we know this name from basketball, they're going to put him out at wide receiver, and that's Dante Rush. He's a kid that I really think as a junior could be very good. You got to get him the ball. That's going to be the key. They're experienced up front. After that, they have no experience anywhere. They are going to be one of the younger teams in our area. But I think the world of Kevin. I don't know him well, but the times I've met him, I really like him. And I spent some time with him this week, just talking about what lies ahead for them. And he's, we kind of feel like if we can just be competitive and make people have to work to beat us, that no matter what our record is, it'll be a success. They got their doors blown off a few times last year, and they're trying to narrow that gap and get closer to teams. And again, their conference, I'll be honest, I think sometimes subtraction makes you stronger, and I think they got better in the Apollo with the addition of Matt Toon and saying goodbye to the other three. We know Newton's been really good through the years. Robinson was coming with Coach Nolan, who was at Mount Zion before that. But I really think that league got better. And now, from an enrollment standpoint, it all kind of makes sense a little better for everyone involved. Matt Toons has been a football power under Gerald Temples, and now that they're on another coach. Now Coach Temples retired a few years back. They've always been one of the best teams in the Big 12. And now they come to the Apollo, and they've had a couple of tough years in that Big 12, but I think they'll be right there in the thick of it. Everybody's really pointing at Charleston, though in that league is the team to beat with their, I can't think of his last name, but their quarterback who's extremely talented. But, Salem's just going to be a crapshoot. How do these young kids show up on Friday night? They come ready to play. I think they're going to have a chance to be okay.
Well, before we get to our off-the-cuff question that we'll get to here in just a moment, which will be our final question, I know you got to run. Effingham Flaming Hearts, of course, a team that usually a perennial postseason threat. Love to play that Friday night game the first week of the postseason if they're hosting. We love that as well as fans. But the Flaming Hearts, a team picked up by the Orphans in Week 3, I think that's a nice get for the Orphans.
I do too. I don't know exactly the situation that Highland opted not to re-up. It was funny. I remember it wasn't that long ago. Our AD's phones couldn't ring enough. People looking to play Centralia in football, and I don't think that was really the key reason. That Centralia's beaten them the last couple of years, so therefore we're not going to play you anymore. I just think they were looking for something different. I don't think there was anything that happened on the field or there was any friction. They were just looking to go a different direction with their schedule. And Effingham coach McDonald does a great job. Ray has some familiarity with them from being at Mater Dei, but they're always a different team in Week 3 than Week 1. Week 1, they tend to always have, it seems like, 2 to 3 pretty good ball players that don't see the field that first week for whatever reason. But that'll be a good pickup. And the non-conference schedule was Salem, Mascouda, Highland, Civic Memorial. You'd like to think you can win at least 3 of those, if not all 4, and put yourself in a great position to make a run at the playoffs again.
Is there going to be, obviously not in 2012, but do you think in 2013, 14, 15 that Centralia, among other South 7 schools, are going to have some problems finding games in the current playoff system, the IHSA?
I don't think Centralia will. I know Mount Vernon ran into that a few years ago, my goodness, when they're going to Chicago and Cincinnati and all points in between trying to find games. I don't foresee that being a problem. First of all, Ray has been very proactive in scheduling. I'm not so sure he doesn't have a schedule full for the next 4 years already. He gets out in front of everyone and gets the games he would like to get, see the programs he'd like to see, and takes it from there. But I think Centralia's booked pretty solidly. I want to say at least through 2015, everything's good to go contract-wise. So in the immediate future, I don't foresee it being a problem.
First, we got our final social media question. We'll ask you in a second. First, let me extend to you a happy birthday today.
Well, I thank you.
I had no idea.
Yeah, we're 43 today.
Haven't been on Facebook yet to know.
That's okay. We're 43 today. I don't think many folks gave me much of a chance of getting this far about 15 years ago.
Okay,
but we've made it.
You've proved them wrong. It's all that good, clean living and everything else.
You better believe it, Danny. Yeah, it's that absolute regimen that I live my life by that has allowed me to climb into my now nearing the mid-40s, but much appreciated. We'll have a little birthday celebration tonight at the house, I think.
By the way, our social media question of the week is, what was your favorite class in school?
Are we talking high school?
Any. You can pick wherever you want.
Oh, boy. I'll tell you what, in high school, I had 2 of the best teachers in the world. One of them you guys know very well, Peggy Strothman, made accounting fun, and I loved accounting, but I'm going to have to go with my world history. I absolutely have always loved history, and the way it was taught to me, it was such a college-type course as a sophomore in high school. I fell in love with world history as opposed to U.S. history, and so I think I'm going to take world history for 200.
Nice.
So I'm kidding because you and I are in the same age bracket. I had to laugh when you said world history as a sophomore. You came in and took government or civics, then you had world history, then you had American history, and then you had whatever. But I was laughing because the world history as a sophomore made me had to laugh.
Yeah, well, we had to do the, actually, to be honest with you, I fibbed. I didn't mean to. I actually took world history my junior year because I took U.S. history as a sophomore. So it was my junior year that I went backwards. I did U.S. history first and then went back.
Nice. That's, believe it or not, the first world history we've had. We've had biology, accounting, American. Ray said American history. Of course, he jokingly said lunch first, which is kind of how I figured that would go. But
pretty high on my list too, buddy.
Leo, I know you're busy this morning. I just want to thank you for taking the time to join us, and happy birthday.
No problem. Thank you, guys. Look forward to seeing you down the road.
Amen. That's Mike McManus, of course, sports editor of the Morning Sentinel and voice of the Orphans. one of them anyway, on X95, our sister station there in Centralia. Ryan Roddy and Mike McManus, of course, do a great job. They'll be on the air with the Shrine Bowl on Friday at 7:30 against the Salem Wildcats. So we need to take a break. When we come back, we will have the naming of our special correspondent in 2012, and he will join us after the break. Saturday Sports Show is presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't forget, get to Ford Square until 3 o'clock. It's a Drive One for Your School event for Mount Vernon Township High School. You can raise up to $8,000 for the Rams and Lady Rams athletic programs. Just go down to Ford Square, go in the rear, go in the back entrance, back door, and you'll find Mount Vernon coaches waiting for you. You'll find people with clipboards, friendly faces, smiling faces this early in the morning, and they will lead you to test drive a vehicle, and $20 for that fine vehicle you test drive will go back to the Mount Vernon Rams and Lady Rams. It's a great deal. You can raise up to $8,000 a day, 6 of that through simple test drives. You can raise up to $2,000 more if you go back and test drive a Ford Escape. That's right, a Ford Escape, nice little crossover they have down there. Test drive that, and up to $8,000 can go back to the Rams and Lady Rams, courtesy of Ford Square and the Ford Motor Company. So that's going on until 3 o'clock today. Next week it's Woodlawn's turn. We hope you'll support both. We need to get to a break. Special correspondent when we return.
We're days away from Mount Vernon Rams football. This season, WMIX and Community First Bank team up to bring you the best Rams broadcast coverage. Friday, August 24th, the Rams host defending 4A state champion Rochester. Join Chris Hugo and Danny Zerwinski for the Rams and Rockets on AM 940 or watch online at mywithersradio.com. Pre-game at 6:40, kickoff at 7 on WMIX and mywithersradio.com. Powered by Community First Bank. Welcome back to Personal Banking.
It's back and better than ever. Rend Lake College Golf Outlet's Super Demo Day on Saturday, August 25th. Major manufacturers' representatives will be on hand to answer any questions about your favorite equipment, plus free balls and fittings. You can test the latest and greatest golf equipment in the industry from Callaway, Mizuno, Cobra, Bridgestone, Adams, and more. Enjoy free hot dogs and soft drinks at Super Demo Day only Saturday, August 25th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Rend Lake College Golf Outlet off of Potomac Boulevard in Mount Vernon.
The Orthopedic Center of Southern Illinois proudly welcomes Dr. Brian Steinke to their medical staff. Dr. Steinke is an orthopedic surgeon specializing in spine surgery, treatment of the injured back, and will provide the newest state-of-the-art procedures in the region. Dr. Steinke is fellowship-trained in spine and brings prestigious credentials to the center. Dr. Steinke will be seeing patients at the Mount Vernon and Centralia locations. To set up your appointment with Dr. Steinke, call 242-3778 or visit their informative website at orthocenter-si.com. Discover the difference.
All right, I want to ask you something, but you have to promise not to laugh at me.
Okay, what?
Do you think the State Farm jingle really works?
Like, for real? Like, if you sing the jingle, will your agent actually appear and help you out?
Yeah.
Of course it works. I saw it on the internet.
In reality, having your own State Farm agent means having a real person to help you when you need them. Tony Wilt in Mount Vernon is that State Farm agent. So call him today at 242-1421.
And welcome back to the Saturday Sports Show, WMIX, mywithersradio.com. It's presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Before we bring our next guest on, I guess we need to name our next guest. We've been teasing him as our special correspondent for 2012, and how this all kind of worked out. DC knows the story better than I do because I don't really know how to tell this story. I don't know how it got to me. I liked it.
I just had
Did you guys arrange it ahead of time?
Of someone that we're going to introduce here was going to go to a lot of high school football games this year, a lot of different games, and we thought, well, why not? He's got knowledge, supreme knowledge in football.
Dude breaks
on all
down
levels.
film like nobody else.
Right, breaks down film. Thought this would be a guy,
good guy
to have on, and it's a guy.
Well-spoken, well-versed because he teaches English.
Yes, and so this was an idea I talked to him about last week, brought it up with Mr. Hugo, and
I thought it was brilliant, personally.
Yeah.
It was a great idea, and that special correspondent is John Shadowens. Coach Shadowens, good morning.
Hey, good morning, fellas. I need to hire you for my agent.
I can sell like the best of them sometimes, so maybe that's a good idea. But, obviously, I'll call it the retirement from the SVWW job last year, and DC kind of came to me about this idea about, you were going to go to different games all season long, and I, for one, am glad that you are willing to do this for us every week. I think it's going to be a brilliant thing.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to this all summer long, and actually got the schedule out and planned where I think the big games are going to be, and I'm going to be flexible with that as the season goes on if a big game pops up here or there. But I'm really looking forward to just enjoying some football this year.
Enjoying football, and I know I'm well ahead 10 weeks from now talking playoffs, but you think you're going to be able to roll if we want to take off and go to a Friday night, Saturday afternoon bonanza of games?
I think that I'd be up for that. if it's about high school football, I'll be there.
Because we kind of like, we have our favorite spot of Effingham on a Friday night. We really like that. O'Fallon's been a spot lately, Breeze Mater Day, so you kind of see what we like to do as far as going. We'll throw that opportunity out there 10 weeks from now if it comes up.
Hey, that sounds great, fellas.
What game are you going to open up the season with next week, take in on the schedule?
I'm going to drive down to Carmi and see what Kurt Simon's got in store for the El Dorado Eagles.
That's an interesting matchup. Carmi, they've been the powerhouse in the conference, and, of course, El Dorado, up and coming with Brandon Hampton. What a tremendous job he's done at El Dorado, a bear of a program down there.
Yeah, I think it's a very key year for El Dorado, Danny, and, here they go up against the undefeated conference champion from last year to open the year. El Dorado has turned the corner, and they've had a couple of winning years, a couple of years in the playoffs here, but that class is gone, and now we see if what they've done has taken or to take a step back. So it's a huge year for them and a huge game Friday.
It's a big game in that Black Diamond Conference. And after that, you look at the conference, obviously a very deep conference top to bottom. If we leave there, we've been covering the South 7 this morning a lot lately, and that conference has changed so much in 10 years. Have you ever remembered a more balanced South 7 conference than what it is now?
You know what? I was just looking at that and thinking, if you had to pick out a couple of favorites there, who would they be? And there are no weak sisters. I mean, it's tough, and it's a great thing for that conference.
Well, and it just seems like, I was thinking back to the earlier part of this millennium when you could go back and when Althoff came into the conference, it was going to be Althoff or Cahokia every year. Then Mount Vernon kind of slipped into the picture, and you knew it was going to be one of those three. And then Marion comes into the picture. Carbondale gets Dan Koester. They kind of enter the foray as well. And then Ray Cullen and Centralia. No longer can you go through that South 7 schedule and say, this team's going to lose on that night, this team's going to win here. I just haven't seen that much parity in any conference in quite some time.
I would have to agree with you. With the Centralia situation shaping up like it did last year, and taking away that automatic win, taking nothing away from those kids, but that's pretty much what it was back in the early part of the decade. It really has shaken things up there.
As a coach and still coaching, is it tougher to build a program up to a winning style, or is it tougher to keep it there winning year after year?
That's a great question. I think it depends on the situation. Hate to cop out on that one, but it really is true. In some places, keeping a program where it's at in some conferences, it's so hard to win year in and year out. You mentioned a conference like the South 7, the Oka Valley, places like that where even though you have to have it going on and whatnot, it's so hard every year to keep it going. And then you change leadership and people expect that same amount of success. That's tough. At the same time, you go to a situation like Coach Rude went to at Vienna, building a program from scratch or the ground up. You got to teach those kids how to win, and it just depends on the place, and it takes the right mix of kids with the chemistry with the coaching staff, and it just depends.
Speaking of Coach Rude and different things going on, a couple streaks went by the boards last year. DuQuoin's long playoff streak, Carterville's playoff streak. AJ is the winner now with, I think, 11 or 12 years in a row. After that, it's single digits, and we're talking small single digits for streaks in the area. Is this kind of the point in turn where some other teams are going to take the floor, or do you expect DuQuoin, Carterville, and others that had off years last year to be back in the mix?
No, I think what Chris mentioned about the parity, I think that's true in other conferences as well, and I think it's directly attributed to the coaching. And you'll hear Coach Rude say this as well. But coaching has never been better than it is right now in Southern Illinois. It's very, very competitive. There are good coaches spread throughout all three of the major conferences down here, and that's what makes it so tough.
When you're going into week one as a football coach, is it hard to plan for someone when obviously from last year it's the first game, a lot of unknowns for both teams. Is it harder then or harder in the playoffs to get ready for an unfamiliar team?
Way harder week one, at least for me, Danny, because in my MO, I was a schemer, and I would try to take away the other team's 2 or 3 best plays, and that's the way we had success at SVWW. Well, how do you know what the team's best 3 plays are? in week one. In the playoffs, that you have a lot of film to look at. That team's identity is stamped all over them. You know what to do. You can't always take it away, but you know what you have to take away. Week one is scary. I think coaches that have a more blue-collar approach, that don't worry as much about what others do, but what they're going to, like Dan Mings, for example, at Johnson City, what they're doing, what they're building down there. I think that those sort of philosophies have more of an advantage in week one.
I got to mention this. We're going to have lots of time over the next 9, 10 weeks, 11, 12, talk football. One clipboard for you goes up on the shelf to collect dust. The other clipboard comes back down, and you got to knock some dust off. You're going to be doing a little coaching come winter time. What's going on in your sports world this winter?
Well, I'm going to team up with Rick Metcalf, and we're going to try to coach a talented bunch of girls in Class 2A girls basketball this year, and I'm really looking forward to that. Haven't coached girls basketball since I think it was 2002 is whenever I left the program there. And Rick come on last year, won a regional, and had an opening as an for an assistant, and I'm really looking forward to that.
It's just kind of like old home week. Everybody's getting back together down there. I mean, what's going on here?
I guess so. Rick's a lot of fun, and he's mellowed out a lot since his boys coaching days, and he's really having a ball with these girls, and they're a fun group to be around.
Coach, we're going to talk to you plenty over the course of the next few weeks, so you're going to get used to our WMIX Sports social media question, which this week, since school's getting back in session, we're kind of going with, what was your favorite subject in school? I know you teach English now and whatnot, but what was your favorite subject growing up?
I was partial to history. I wasn't quite as good at it as I was at English, so I was able to make a career out of English, but I always loved history.
School started this week. What day did you guys go back at Cesar-Valera?
Kids reported on Friday for registration. First full day is going to be on Monday.
Oh, so it's like us at Woodlawn. It's giddy up go time, isn't it?
You betcha.
Hard to believe.
So as a guy who tried English Ed as a part of a double triple major at one point, I've got to ask your curriculum. Are you more of like a language arts type, or is it more of like a literature type thing? What do you guys do down there?
Well, it's called language arts at Cesar-Valera. At least in the junior high today. I'm junior high and a high school teacher. As we go into the high school, then it's more literature-based because the ISAT and the ACT have went away from the writing here in Illinois the last couple of years. We're not as heavy on it. We still write a lot as well. So a lot of literature, a lot of writing.
Very nice. I always love talking English, so if we're able to make it to a couple postseason games, that might come up. Just not a lengthy conversation. Might be some things where I pick your brain a little bit. But, Coach,
you betcha.
we are looking forward to this over the next 9, 10, 12, 14, however many weeks it ends up going, but we are looking very much forward to it. Thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Hey, I am as well. Thank you, guys.
That is John Shadowens. Of course, you may have remembered him as last year the coach of the Cesar-Valera-Waltonville-Woodlawn Red Devils, and, the Red Devils aren't going to be something that come up with that. He's going to go to a different game every week, and it'll be one where, say, I don't know what his schedule looks like right now. He has the freedom to choose wherever he wants to go. But, say, for instance, we were looking at having maybe a Brandon Hampton or Kurt Simon on to both that first week. Well, now you get one guy who breaks down the game unlike many, and, that's the plan set. You're able to get kind of more oomph out of one man, natural observer, and then you're also able to have more as well. So we're hoping that allows us to have more content in addition to great content as the 2012 football season gets underway. So we're looking forward to that and so much more. Don't forget our WMIX Sports social media question of the week. You can find that on the WMIX Sports Facebook page. I believe it was also tweeted out earlier in the program at WMIX Sports on Twitter. You know what? If you're not a fan of social media, that's fine. WMIX Sports at mywithersradio.com. You can email us your answer, and we can stick it on our Facebook for you. It is, what is or was your favorite subject, in school? And you know what? We're about 18 minutes shy of the top of the 10 o'clock hour. We might as well just go ahead and throw our answers out there right now. What's yours?
Subject-wise would be history and English, language, literature kind of things. That's kind of me. I'm out of a word person. That's me.
I was kind of your weird kid that loved math and English.
Yeah.
That doesn't quite happen a lot because usually it's one or the other with most people. And I like science. Don't get me wrong. I was blessed with a lot of great science instruction over time. Bob Tomlin's physics class was one of the greatest times I ever had in high school. But I'd have to say I loved English. I didn't love the literature part of it so much. I loved the mechanics. I loved the syntax. I loved the grammar, things of that nature. And I would have to say that even though we didn't really get to focus much on that in high school, I loved Ted Quinn's honors English class as a freshman. And that is what taught me that you can be well-spoken, you can be a fan of the arts, and still be a major fan of sports. Of course, Ted Quinn, obviously a longtime PA voice of Shagnon Jim and things of that nature as well. Big sports fan, was a big fan of St. Louis Cardinals, St. Louis Rams, lives out in Arizona now. But his class just hadn't made such an impression on me, and I'm not going to try to go on forever about it. But I love that. But, I also love some of my media courses with Jamie Van Zandt at the high school. Had an independent study where I learned a lot from Rob Knudsen, things of that nature. And I'm not going to name drop every teacher who influenced me, but really I'm thankful to have had many of the instructors that I had at Mount Vernon Township High School. There's some there now I wish I could have had, obviously. But I really feel like I had a pretty good education. And honors English as a freshman with Ted Quinn really sticks out as the one that, now looking back where I am, is what pretty well kind of allowed me to get here, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully it does. There we go.
I followed you.
Yeah. Of course, it's not necessarily about whether you're following me, though it's great if you do. I guess it matters if we still have an audience after that soliloquy, or aside, so to speak. All right, we need to take our last break. When we come back, we'll break down some of the football we've talked about today and even try to preview some of the other sports that we have coming up on our plate over the next few months here on the Saturday Sports Show. It's presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
We'll be back after these.
Lady Rams Volleyball is back, and WMIX and Community First Bank are set to bring you the action. Log on to mywithersradio.com for a complete Lady Rams Volleyball broadcast schedule and tune in to AM 940 on game night. Chris Hugo and Danny Zawinski will bring you a great assortment of matches on the radio, or you can watch online at mywithersradio.com. Powered by Community First Bank. Welcome back to Personal Banking.
This Saturday night, Matt Castle and the Kansas City Chiefs invade the Dome to battle Sam Bradford and the Rams for the Governor's Cup.
Gives inside to Steven. Had a steam. First down and north. 30 to the 25.
Who will earn the bragging rights for another year?
Fires the crossing route. Clock. Fight for the end zone. He's in. Touchdown.
Pre-game at 6 p.m. Kickoff at 7 on the Rams Radio Network.
This is Steve Savard, your home for every down of St. Louis Rams football. Is AM 940 WMIX.
Are the features with your free checking account disappearing? Hi, this is Nina Reitnauer, relationship banker with People's National Bank in Mount Vernon. A free checking account from People's National Bank includes unlimited check writing, online banking, no minimum balance requirements, bill pay, a Visa check card, and only takes $100 to open. Stop by People's National Bank and get the free checking account you deserve. People's National Bank, member FDIC. Non-usage fees may apply.
When an emergency happens, time is everything, and you don't want to spend that time in a waiting room. So choose Crossroads Community Hospital with our 30 minutes or less ER service pledge. The entire team is committed to working diligently to have you initially seen by a physician, physician assistant, or nurse practitioner within 30 minutes of your arrival. When minutes matter, choose the ER that doesn't waste time. Choose Crossroads Community Hospital. Visit crossroadscommunityhospital.com/faster to learn more. If you are experiencing a medical emergency, call 911.
And we welcome you back to the Saturday Sports Show, WMIX and mywithersradio.com for our final segment. It was a South 7 Conference football preview for you this morning. Of course, we talked to Jared Shaner of the Mount Vernon Rams, Kerry Martin of the Marion Wildcats, Dan Koester of the Carbondale Terriers, Ray Kauling, of course, the Centralia Orphans. We also had Mike McManus on to talk about kind of the Cahokia, get a feel for the Apollo as well. And then, of course, our new correspondent, John Shadowens, as he will join us every week from here on out until he quits going to games. Talk about high school football and break down some games around the area. But since this was a South 7 Conference preview, I guess we need to give our thoughts on the South 7 Conference. Obviously, you want to believe that there's going to be improvement in the Mount Vernon Rams this year, and you know there's going to be some improvements, but it's a question of the schedule. You know, Rochester Week 1, the defending 4A state champs, and Mount Carmel Week 9, the defending 3A runners-up. Here's the thing. I've spoken to quite a few Mount Carmel faithful who tell me they expect the worst team they've had in 45 years which typically means 8-1.
8-1, 7-2.
Right. The more they think about Mount Carmel and even Centralia now, that's more on the basketball side though. But the thing about Mount Carmel is the more they sandbag, the better they're usually going to be. Mm-hmm. And it's just something about it. And if they really mean that, then they always get it turned around. So those two games are going to be tough. And we're not telling you these are going to be wins or losses for the Rams, but Rochester's going to be tough. You have Mascoutah coming up in week 2, a winnable game. Just going to have to execute in that one. Triad is a team that runs the option and does it well.
Year.
Yes, they did.
They lost a ton of talent. Big school, but lost a ton of talent.
Well, they're in that growing area there
yeah.
in Madison County along Route 40. So there's going to be growth.
They didn't realize it, but they're catching up with enrollment at Mount Vernon quickly.
Well, but here's the thing, and this is where I'm kind of baffled. They dropped. At one time, Mount Vernon and Triad were only a couple of kids apart, and if Triad got in and Mount Vernon got in, Triad would often push Mount Vernon to 6A instead of 5. Mm-hmm. So you look at Althoff and Coach Turner and what they have, and will that new turf that they get to play on at Lindenwood University Belleville, will that be an attraction to get some kids back
I think
recruited?
It's a great attraction.
Sure.
Hey,
come back to Althoff. You can play on this turf. Well, you don't need Belleville West.
Yeah.
Or wherever else you're going.
And again, the field might have changed, but you saw East and we saw West last year, their fields.
Yeah.
Whether they're doing it on purpose or not in a wet season last year.
Well, and with the extra team playing on it, who
soccer,
knows? Right.
Yeah.
East and West are definite cases for trying to get some field turf in there, especially when you have Collinsville getting turf. But you look at Althoff, they're expected to be good again this year with Coach Turner. You look at Marion, Kerry Martin has definitely created that culture he set out to create down there. They're expected to be among the tops in the conference. Carbondale is a team where I'm kind of wondering, they did lose a lot, but as Coach Koester said, they return a lot. So you look at the Carbondale Terriers, and we talk about the parity that is the South 7 Conference. Gone are the days of being able to guess who's going to win or lose on any given week. Same with the Black Diamond, of course. We used to be able to go and pick out every week there as well, but you look at the South 7 Conference and who's going to win or lose every week. We just flat out don't know. Carbondale lost Cade Koester. He's now at Southern. Jordan Bowlby, you mentioned Reno Gibson as a kid that's played for 10 years. Same with Jordan Bowlby. He felt like he was there for a dozen. But he's finally graduated. And Carbondale usually has like a big, heavy hitter always. But, is their offense going to be there? That's a team that the Rams have gone 2-0 against in the past 2 years. Last year it was their only win. So, obviously Rams mentality has to be they know they can win that one. Always a little bit tougher to go to Carbondale and win, but they did it a couple of years ago. Cahokia, they come here this year to Mount Vernon, and Cahokia, I think, they're not the Cahokia of old, but you feel for the Comanches because, you'll hear Coach Galladay say, and we were unable to catch up with him today, but you hear Coach Galladay say often how many of his kids are at East St. Louis. It happens in the public schools sometimes too, but Cahokia could be a team that reaches up there and gets themselves a conference crown, or that could be a winnable ball game for a team like the Mount Vernon Rams.
I look at Althoff and Cahokia surviving their first 2 weeks, and Cahokia surviving their first 3 weeks, because Althoff opens up at Collinsville 8A on new turf. They host Melville West 7A at home before they go to Mascoutah, actually play somebody that's, Althoff's enrollment's 416, but of course that's skewed with their private recruiting. But they got to survive the first 2 weeks. You're playing 7, 8A schools, you're going to get beat down. Cahokia's got to survive 3 weeks. O'Fallon, Alton, and St. Louis Miller Academy. Mount Vernon's done that third week. Those 3 weeks are going to be brutal. If Cahokia can somehow survive that and come out, their season's based, those two schools, Althoff, Cahokia, is based on the first 2 weeks. I look at Carbondale having Murphy at home, a Heron team that maybe not quite the vintage of a Heron team last couple of years, but at home, and then at Waterloo. That's usually how Carbondale gets their quick starts. They go 2-1, whatever. That's key for them. They have to have that quick start because then they're going through the juggernaut of Centralia, Cahokia. They get Mount Vernon and Althoff at home, but then they got to go to Marion and Harrisburg. Sure. That's a tough ending for Carbondale. They got to get off to a quick start. Centralia is Centralia. They're going to rack up points.
As long as they outscore, they're fine.
Right. Salem, Bethalto, Effingham, all should be favored. Carbondale should be a favored game. It's that fifth game against Althoff at home in Week 5, where that could be Centralia should be favored at home.
We saw them last year on the road at Althoff, and how that one went down to the wire, and that was a great game.
Right. I would suspect Centralia's 4-0, 3-1 going into that, and that's a good start for them because they have some winnables to get in after that. Marion, Granite City, again, that's a tough game. They lost to them
last
year on the road. They pick up Mattoon. That's
which is a
different
great
game.
rematch from second round in 08.
Right, and then you have Harrisburg at home. That's going to be a battle that may or may not go on for a long time because Harrisburg, of course, is a smaller school, half the size of Marion. And then, Harrisburg, Koke, and Mount Vernon home, that's a good get for them. But 3 out of 4 on the road, and then you have the uncertainty of Normandy, Missouri on the end on a 1:30 on Saturday, the last Saturday. Marion, again, they're winning. They've been to the playoffs 7 years in a row now, out of 10 for Kerry Martin. This is a tough year for them, I think. I think they got a lot of kids back, but they're going to have 3 home conference games. But they have to go to Altoff and Centralia. That's 2 very difficult road games.
And not easy to get to now for Marion.
And not easy to get to. So you got the 3 home games that I think they'll have to be favored in Koke and Mount Vernon, Carbondale. Granite City, they'll be at home. That's a toughie for them. And then, of course, you go at Mattoon, another road game. Some questions. And, of course, as you mentioned, Mount Vernon, we all know what's in front of the Rams. 2 teams bookend on the schedule with state trophies from last year. You throw in a Mascoutah team that's getting a lot of publicity during the summer at 7-on-7s and whatnot. We'll see if they're as good with pads and helmets on as they are without pads and helmets. Troy Triad is a team that's a long road trip. You get on the bus, you never know what you're going to get out of teenagers. And then Triad did get to the playoffs last year, but did lose a ton of veteran talent last year. Altoff at home, tough stretch. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 weeks where Mount Vernon's on the road 4 of 5 times. That will be the make or break right there. Mount Carmel game may not have anything to do with the season unless you can get to that point being 4-4 or 5-3.
Right.
The deal is this. Mount Vernon will have enough playoff points. They have to get 5 wins. And it's the same thing every year. They have the most playoff points. Mount Vernon is 8-8 in the last 16 years in opening week games. Now you're thinking, oh my God, well that's Mascoutah, Chicago Simeon, Belleville East, and Miller Career Academy out of St. Louis. You have not won an opening game in the last 5 years. You are 9 wins in 16 years against playoff schools in those weeks, and you're 2-8 in the last 10 years. Needless to say, you have to get off to a start of 1-1 and 2-0 in order to get your chances go up, because if you go 0-2, your chances of getting into the playoffs after that are almost nil. Very few teams. In fact, in the 3 conferences, Diamond, South 7, and River to River, I think there's only about 4 schools that have ever went 0-3, 0-4, and still made the playoffs.
Trying to think. I think 07 Cahokia came close because of the strike.
I'll look those. I can give it to you right here in just a second.
Pretty sure they did. But, as we talk about the Mount Vernon Rams, one, it's hard to believe that when we're talking to you next week, we'll be recapping high school football, among other things next week. That in itself is tough to fathom at this point. The summer's over. School's in session. High school sports have gotten back with us.
I can tell you that since 96, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 different years of teams have started 0-2 or 0-3 and made the playoffs.
Mount Vernon twice.
Mount Vernon in 07, 08. Harrisburg's done it 3 times. Chester, Carmi, and John Shadowens SVWW Devils started out 0-2 last year.
What about Cahokia hasn't?
Nope.
Because they were on strike in 07 for a few weeks.
12 points and everything else.
Huh.
To my knowledge, they haven't. I've looked them up.
I don't know.
I mean,
that's a mystery.
Again, it's one of those deals where, I'll just say South 7. Since 96, 28 teams have started 2-0. Only 5 have not made the playoffs. 40 teams since 96 have went 1-1. Only 26 have failed to make the playoffs. Now you're starting to go half and halves. And then the last one, 21 teams started 0-2. And 19 failed to make it. You can see when you go 0-2, the percentages are against you.
The Cahokia strike was in the middle of the season.
Yes.
In 07, that's right.
Right.
That's right.
And, of course, the Black Diamond River, but since we're focusing on the others.
Right.
But, I mean, I did this a few years back down at Benton. I've had this hid for a while. And it's one of those deals where it's interesting to see in high school football, because if you start out 0-2, you got to play 7 perfect weeks. And a lot of time, if you start out 1-1, you've almost got to play 6, 7 perfect weeks just to get in, because the playoff point situation.
Yeah.
And then you got to win to get in, because then you want to have a home round playoff game, because it's amazing to know when you play at home what happens. I mean, that first week, the percentage of winning at home in the first week is unbelievably high compared to others.
It's definitely an advantage if you can start off at home, but we'll see how that works out for the Mount Vernon Rams. Of course, we'll have Rams football all season long here on WMIX with video streaming when possible at mywithersradio.com. I don't think we go anywhere this year that has a blackout policy in force, so we should have every game of Rams football with video streaming. There will be some Lady Rams volleyball with video streaming. Of course, we won't be able to video stream every game due to a blackout policy at some schools, but we'll make the best of it and still have every game with audio streaming at least on mywithersradio.com. Every game we do anyway.
Speaking of,
yes.
Out of the 128 games last year played in the first round of the playoffs, football, 93 teams won. That's 73% winning percentage at home that first week.
Oh, wow.
If you want more, I won't go through all the boring details. I have it all the way back to 2001.
I'll tell you what, we will need some fodder, of course, throughout the rest of the season here on the show, but we'll also need some topics for our pregame show on Friday night. Rams football will be on the air at 6:40 against the Rochester Rockets. Can't tell you a pregame for Thursday night. I do know Lady Rams start with a JV contest between Weber Township and Mount Vernon, of course, in volleyball action. That'll be a 6:30 JV start, so we'll be on the air upon the conclusion of the JV match and after some of the warm-up time because they warm up. And so we'll have that for you Thursday night with video streaming. It's all presented by Community First Bank of the Heartland, your official voice of the Mount Vernon Rams. Welcome back to Personal Banking. That'll be Thursday and Friday this week, and then we'll be off again until the 31st when the Rams travel to Mascoutah. We'll have all of that with video on mywithersradio.com as well. So we're looking forward to all of that, looking forward to everything that we will bring you this season. And, of course, we thank Jared Shaner, Kerry Martin, Dan Koester, Ray Kauling, Mike McManus, and our new – I forgot the term I used.
Special correspondent.
Oh, yeah, our new correspondent, John Shadowens, of course, will join us weekly here on the Saturday Sports Show. We hope you enjoyed today's program. If you enjoyed it or you missed part of it, you'll be able to find it a little bit later on mywithersradio.com in our archive, because as you know, we archive every edition of the Saturday Sports Show now here, starting with the 2012-2013 school year. If you missed a game from last year, we do have archives of games from last year on mywithersradio.com as well, as we will now archive every game, whether it be audio or video, on mywithersradio.com. Check it out. Check out the WMIX website. The Sports tab has everything you need to know to stay up to date, from our social media to our archives to our local schedules. Thank you for joining us here on the Saturday Sports Show. Hope you'll enjoy Balloonfest this weekend. That's where some of us will be. This is WMIX Mount Vernon, a free service from Withers Broadcasting. Time for NBC News.